Okay, I'm calling to order the Town of Hebron Douglas Library Board of Trustees meeting for Monday, July 10th, 2023 at 7 p.m. It's being held virtually. It is a regular meeting. I think the first order of business is a pledge of allegiance. So, we should put a little flag up on the screen too. But anyway, okay, go pledge to your flag. Okay, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. And now we go into public comments, and we have a member of the public with us tonight. Courtney, did you want to address us with a few words of your wisdom?
My name is Courtney Hayes, and I moved to Hebron last November. I'm interested in the Board of Trustees for the library if a position comes open, and I'm also on Zoning Board of Appeals.
Okay. Could we ask you why you would be crazy enough to do two things?
Because I love to overschedule myself. I'm also a lawyer, so I'm sure you get that.
Oh, Courtney, what kind of law do you do?
Insurance defense. It's for a firm in Boston, but I handle their Connecticut and New York cases.
Okay. So you're on trial.
We haven't had one actually make it to trial yet, but yes.
Okay. All right, because then you'll have no life. Okay. Okay, did anyone have any comments for Courtney to encourage her or discourage her from joining the Board of Trustees?
Welcome and encourage all the meetings you can.
Perfect.
We certainly can use good people and good thinking people. We have a great Board of Trustees already, and some talented people and some very interesting people. So you would be a welcome addition.
Thank you.
Okay, the next thing is the report. Oh, thank you, Donna, by the way, for putting this all together. The agenda and all the documents, I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, because I couldn't get into the link and she fixed it, so we're all set. And put the package together for us, so there you go. The secretary, that would be approving the minutes from the last meeting. Did anybody have any comments or changes to the minutes from the last meeting, which was June 19th, 2023, which she just put up on the screen? Someday I'll have to learn how to do that. I just had one comment about approving the minutes for the 4/10/23 meeting. We say throughout there kids. Should we put children in there instead?
Well, what did we say during the meeting? I think
I don't
that
recall.
Whatever term was used during the meeting would be the correct term.
Okay, so I think, was it kids? Anybody recall? Must have been kids, or she wouldn't put that in there. Okay, it answers that question. Did anyone else have any changes, additions, amendments?
I have a question. I didn't see Peter listed as either present or absent. I may have overlooked him, but I don't think so.
I don't see you, Peter. Were you there?
I was not there. I was stealth that night.
Okay, so could I have a motion to amend the meeting minutes to reflect that Peter was absent? Don't everybody say up, jump up and down at once.
Right, I'll make a motion that the minutes of June 19th be amended to reflect that Peter Cascarello was absent.
And
May I
I'll
have
I'll second that motion, Pat.
Peter, you can't, you weren't there.
No, but I'm here tonight.
I will second it.
Okay. Any
While we're on
discussion?
the subject, I am listed as absent and I was there.
Oh.
Oh, would you like to move to have that changed?
Yes.
So you want to be, Emily wants to be present and Peter wants to be marked absent. Do I have a second to Emily's motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, can we do this as, okay, well, first motion is for Peter. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I think I better abstain.
Excellent. For Emily, the motion to have her listed as president. Yeah, I wish. A present. All those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Peter?
I abstain.
Okay, okay, all right. And then could I have a motion to accept the minutes as amended?
All right, I'll make a motion to accept the June 19th minutes as amended.
May I have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions?
I abstain.
Excellent. Okay, so the minutes have been accepted. Okay, moving on.
Can I just jump in for one quick second? I think Mary Ann Foote has just joined us. I believe that is her phone number.
Okay,
And so I'm just gonna, just wanted you to know you have another
Okay.
member.
all right.
Okay,
If she's there, Marianne, we're going through the agenda and we have just approved the minutes from the last session with 2 corrections. I hope she can hear me. Are you there? Oh, okay. When you can hear us, or that makes sense. Well, maybe she'll speak up. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the financial report, which I don't think we have one for this month. Do we, Donna?
I don't believe we have one this month.
Our budget started on July 1st, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. All right. Library director. The library director position is vacant. Kevin has resigned and moved on to greener pastures, I guess. He's going to be executive director in South Windsor. The building projects that he told me about were the roof and the replacement of windows. The roof is completed and those blocking, the retainer walls, the whatever they are to protect the public are soon to be removed and probably maybe gone in the next week. And all the last window was just installed, so the window project is done. And that's the only thing I know about the existing projects. Did anyone else have anything to add?
The only other thing I have to add is again, a big thank you very much to the town building committee. What they did for us, have continued to do for us, as well as monitor the progress of the roof and some safety items that came up. So big thank you very much to that group.
Yeah, I also know there were some electrical items that were to be addressed, but I do not know what happened with those, so.
Oh, I didn't hear about those, Pat, so I'm sorry, I can't help.
They were minor things.
Pat, are you talking about the connection for Ethernet so we can extend the Wi-Fi?
No, I wasn't, but go ahead.
Well, I just know that was delayed because of the freeze last April. So that as soon as our electrician can get to it, that Ethernet work will be done and we can move forward with, Donna will tell us the name of the company that takes care of all of our IT, all of those various pieces.
Okay.
The IT company is Novus. I
Right.
thought the extension of the Ethernet was through a grant.
I don't
It
know.
was
I
what?
mean,
So I don't
Yes.
know why the spending freeze would have affected that.
because I know it
Well,
wasn't
Kevin told
started.
me that last week.
I wasn't aware of that, but
I
we,
was, yeah. I know it wasn't
think-
started until after July 1st.
I think the electrical issue was in the lower level. The mini split wasn't working. And according to the service people, it was an electrical problem. It was nothing to do with their unit.
Okay,
Okay, Kevin told me this and said they were waiting for Dan Larson because he would be the one to do it, but that the spending freeze had held up the job. That's what Kevin told me this past week.
But that's two different things. The
Right,
extension of
that's
the
two different-
Ethernet and the
Yeah.
HVAC issue. The HVAC issue has been resolved.
What has been?
Mhm.
Okay,
Right, I wasn't talking about that because you said the roof and everything had been completed.
you were talking about the Wi-Fi, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Oh, the other thing is after the building barriers are taken down, I believe we're going to have power washing, from what I understand.
And
Okay,
Now,
a lot
has
of landscaping, to
Oh,
get
yeah.
that back
yeah,
into
those
shape.
bushes are out of control.
have the gutters and downspouts been completed?
My understanding was yes, that they weren't taking the barriers down until the gutters and downspouts were completed.
Right, that's what I'm saying, that they have not yet been completed.
I do not know. And I can't look out the window to see, so.
No,
Okay.
Richard Steiner, Rich Steiner told me that. Again, I spoke to him this week.
Okay, then you have the most recent information.
I know that this morning, Willie Bell, our building maintainer, was going to communicate with Richard Steiner to get the exact status of the entire project. So that was just as of this morning.
Okay,
So I
Any-
don't have that information.
okay. Does anyone
Back
have
in.
any other building project information or anything else they wanted to add? Next month, we should have a better report in hand. Okay, anyone from the Friends of the Douglas Library who would like to report? No? Okay, then we move on to the town manager representative.
Hello again.
Mhm.
We have, as you know, finally have a budget in place. It took 3 votes, but we got there. The budgets have been set up, and I don't know that they're yet processing purchase orders for this fiscal year, but we can start spending that money. We are still working on ARPA. The selectmen have had a couple of workshops to refine the ARPA approval list. So that is still all in the works. Our big thing right now for the library is working on the library director recruitment. And we have started that. We started that a couple weeks ago. We've done all of the advertising in the publications, local, statewide, Hartford Current, CCM, the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities. We post it at the local universities that have library science programs. We have posted it with the Connecticut Library Association, Connecticut Library Consortium, the Department of Labor. It's on our social media sites, Facebook, our website. We put it out on Indeed. So it is out there. We've received a few applications so far. The closing date is July 28th. So it will be open for about a month.
Mhm.
And then we anticipate that the resumes would be reviewed the last week of July, first week of August, and then we would schedule the interviews for probably the second week in August, first and second round interviews, and hopefully have someone on board on early September. It's going to depend on who the successful candidate is and how much notice they may need to give their current employer. There are a lot of library director, executive library director positions currently vacant in the state of Connecticut. So the pool may be slight. What we're recommending is a 5-member interview panel
Okay.
with 3 members from the Board of Trustees,
Mm-hmm.
1 person from the town manager's office, probably me, and then a local librarian. So it may possibly be Amanda Brower, because she is very familiar with our library, our programs. She, and she knows where we are and what we're about. And then for the second round interview, that would be the first round would make recommendation for 2 or 3 finalists, depending on how strong the candidates are. And then second round interview would be with the town manager and the library board president. And then hopefully we come up with a successful candidate, have the negotiations, and get them on board as soon as possible.
Donna,
So that, yeah.
how do we choose who's the going to be the representatives from the trustees board?
I think everybody could think about that, and it doesn't have to be decided here tonight. I know that Gail Richmond definitely wants to be one of those 3. She, she wears a couple different hats. She's wearing a hat as the library board member, but also from the state of Connecticut or state library board. So I think that gives us, a couple different perspectives.
True.
And then it is open to, members who are interested and have, some background with the library board and have the time, because depending on how many candidates we interview, it could be a full day event.
Okay. So we would be looking for volunteers to start with. Okay, you heard, if anyone wants to volunteer, should they contact you?
Yes, we're working, the town manager's office will work with Pat and Gail to put it all together. So yes, you could contact the town manager's office.
Yeah,
Yep.
I thought somebody said I might have been already volunteered, but I'm not sure.
What we were looking for would be for you in the second round to be.
Okay, so then I could have someone else could share the glory. Okay, well, let Donna know if you're interested then, and because we still need 2 more. So, and I'm going to reserve my wisdom for the second round.
Donna, I have a quick question about that. How far in advance would we know the date? If it's like a full day of interviews, would we know like a week before or just like a couple days before when that date would be?
It would most likely be a week before.
Okay.
Yeah, it wouldn't be just a couple of days, but.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The chairperson report. The only thing I'll reserve for when we do the policy reviews, okay, under new business, and explain what it's in the packet there. Otherwise, I don't have any more information on who to contact or anything else for library business. So I assume that other staff members will be stepping forward, at least temporarily. So to pick up for Kevin. Somebody's sitting in his office. I saw his light on. So there you go. Okay.
But who's in charge? Who?
Well, I would
So-
imagine it would be, what do you think? I think Sherry is, isn't she?
Well, that would be up to the town manager's office to
That's why I was asking Donna.
decide how responsibilities were divided.
So I cannot answer that question.
Andy does plan to sit down with Claire and Sherry tomorrow to discuss it. I know that Peter wanted to have some discussion about that later in the meeting. Right now, we've asked Claire and Sherry to kind of step up and pretty much do what they did while Kevin was away on the paternity leave. So that's the way it stands right now. But
Oh, so somebody has spoken to them already.
Okay, excellent.
no firm designation has been made. Kevin just left on Friday.
Right.
Last week, Andy and I were both on vacation.
Yeah.
And, so Andy did have a brief conversation with Claire and Sherry today,
Okay.
and is going to have a follow-up conversation tomorrow.
Okay.
But, part of that was dependent on what the board's input was based on a discussion that we may have later in the meeting.
Okay,
Because
all right. Then
thank you.
we'll move on to the next old business, Poet Laureate.
Before we do that, did
Yes.
you skip Board of Selectmen?
She's not here.
Okay.
Gail's not here,
All
I'm
right.
sorry.
All right,
Gail
Poet
would have,
Laureate.
Gail would have done the Board of Selectmen report, but she's not here.
I was not aware of that since I can't see. I can only hear.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, no, Gail called in and said she wasn't up to it tonight.
Okay.
Okay, sorry
this is
about that.
Mary Ann.
Okay, where were we? Old business, Poet Laureate.
Right, and I started speaking twice.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
This is
ahead.
Mary Ann.
Oh, Jesus.
And I tried to schedule a meeting. I had been in touch, I emailed Althea and Gail and was in touch with Kevin as well as Meg. And we did set up a date, but no one, I was down there in Kevin's office, but no one else contacted or called in or anything. So we couldn't have a meeting. Still want to move forward and have another little get together with people interested in poetry in the town and see if any others are interested in applying. We have the one applicant and he does appear to be a very good one, so we can move forward. But I'm not going to do it by myself. And the other thing is, I spoke to one of the individuals who attended our other little poetry get together, and he said that he really liked it and he'd be happy if we had another one. So that's just one vote in that direction. So that's my report.
Okay. If you were going to have another meeting, little get together, when would that be?
Since no one else has replied, I am not picking a date. It would be a Saturday someday, probably, the middle of the day. That's when people can attend, and that's when we held the other one.
Okay.
But until we have some other members of the committee kicking in, it's not up to me to make the decision alone.
And I'll email you. And at the last meeting that we tried to get together, it got kind of wonky because it was right when Kevin was leaving. And then I wasn't going to be able to go in person and said I was going to need a link. But then I think Kevin missed that. And so I emailed him that day and I'm like,
he didn't miss it. We had no links. It was just for you to call in.
Yeah, but he didn't like send out that information. So like I emailed him at like 2 and was like, hey, are we doing this today? And he was like, oh, I didn't know that you didn't know to call in. So that the communication was a little wonky.
Oh, so Meg, you certainly want to be at the next get together then?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean like the meeting that we were trying to have to like discuss the Poet Laureate stuff. It just, the communication got kind of weird getting there. So.
Okay, you committee members work that out between you. and
Yeah.
Get the.
Can
make
I
sure-
ask a question? MA, have we publicized this in the local papers, on our websites and our Facebook pages that there, we
I know
are?
nothing. About Facebook. That's not my bag.
No, I know, but
had
we can help with that. But I think we need to get the word out to the general public that we are doing this. There is an application process. Here's the application. This is what we're looking for, so that people know that they can apply.
Absolutely. And that
Yeah.
all would have been discussed if we had managed to get together.
Okay, because I think we probably could go ahead and do that, and, kind of side by side, also schedule the next tea or social or whatever we call it. But we have all the documents in place for the application and the portfolio and instructions. I think we probably should get some press releases and some social media out there to encourage more applications.
And I think that could all be done when we publicize whenever we have our next poetry get together, and include the laureate and the information and have it all in. Well, I always use River East, but others can help with the Facebook or whatever else.
Would
If we're gonna post stuff on Facebook, does the library board of trustees have their own Facebook page, or do we just do stuff through the Friends of Douglas Library or through Douglas Library itself? Like, who is in charge of the Facebook page?
I don't know. I don't think the trustees has a Facebook page. I think the library has a Facebook page.
Okay, so it would go, so even if we put something together, we would just give that to Douglas Library and they would put whoever is in charge.
Yeah,
Like,
and
was
I don't
Kevin,
know. I don't
like,
know
was
who's
Kevin in charge of the Facebook page?
Don't know. Do you know,
Okay.
Donna? Who's in charge?
Well, Kevin was.
I
But
know.
he has left all of the credentials for those accounts.
Okay.
Right.
I just feel that we had that first event, which was great, and I don't, when we publicized that, it was really just a poetry reading or a poetry event. The publication or publicity about that did not talk about a poet laureate. It was
Oh.
kind of a soft opening. And I just don't think the general public even knows that we are recruiting for a poet laureate at this time.
You're absolutely
just-
correct. And that's why, if our committee can get together and pick another date for a follow-up and include all of the laureate information and publicize all of it, it would be a stronger intro.
I'm sorry. I don't really know who's else is on the poet laureate committee.
The ones that I mentioned, Gail, Althea, we allowed her to remain on,
Yeah.
and Meg and myself.
Okay. Do you want to take responsibility for coordinating that then? Getting the committee together?
Well, I failed the last time. But
Yeah,
I
I think
could
that
try
was
again.
just tricky. Like I said, I think it was right at the time when Kevin was leaving and just like communication signals got crossed. So that got tricky. But
Well,
I'll
that
reach
was
out to you.
That was you, but I never heard from the other two either. So it was it simply did not work from any direction. But I'll try again.
Meg, why don't you try too? See if
Yeah.
you can get some connections and get them over to Susan and see if you can get it together. Maybe, if two of you working on it, maybe somebody will hit pay dirt.
Who is the Susan that you just mentioned? Did you say Susan, or did I mishear?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say, I'm sorry. I was looking at the computer screen while I was talking. Sorry about that. Okay, so you two can get together and get that, you know, see if you can come up with something. And I know Gail's time is very limited, so she'll probably be the hard person to get together with. So, okay, so are we moving on with the poet laureate? Okay. The next old business is the policy review from the challenged materials policies. The last time we got together on this, we had made some suggested changes that Kevin said he was going to incorporate. And I believe what's in your package today is the result of our last comments and Kevin's attempt to incorporate them into the request for reconsideration. I don't know if you had a chance to review this or not. If you have, do you have any comments on what is there in terms of what was added?
Could someone forward the packet to me? I did not receive it.
Oh dear. Don, can you forward that to her?
MA, it just went out late this afternoon. It was like just before 5 o'clock when I sent it.
Yeah, and I'm looking at my email.
Okay,
It's the Hebron email.
so
Which I could never get that. Okay.
MA, are you saying that you'd like to have a chance to review this further before we act on this?
Not necessarily, but I would like to look at what, at the final product.
Okay.
I mean, can everyone else see it? Does everyone else have it?
Everybody else can see it, but I certainly would like your input on this policy and some of the wording in there. So we can go through the changes that he made and then perhaps have a further discussion of it at the next meeting, if that's all right with everyone. Basically,
If everyone else is ready to vote, I'm not going to hold it up.
okay. All right. Does anyone have any more comments or thoughts about what is in here?
I went through and
How about if we read it through? It's not that long. How about
okay,
if
go
we
ahead,
read
Donna.
it?
You can read
That
it.
way. Oh, I can if you want me to. That's not why I
no
said
problem.
that, but
All right.
that way I may get.
Okay,
Go on.
so we have request for reconsideration. The library strives to maintain a collection with a broad appeal for all residents of Hebron. To this end, the library has adopted the American Library Association's Library Bill of Rights and Freedom to Read statement. Materials available in the library present a diversity of viewpoints, enabling citizens to make the informed choices necessary in a democracy. The library also selects a wide variety of library materials that satisfy the diverse interests of our community. The library upholds the right of the individual to secure these resources, even though the content may be controversial, unorthodox, or unacceptable to some. The library's varied collection is available to all. However, it is not expected that all the collections will appeal to everyone. Okay, residents of Hebron and members of the staff who wish to request the withdrawal or reclassification of materials currently owned by the library are encouraged to discuss their concerns with the library director. If the concerned party is not satisfied with the response to their request, they may complete a statement of concern about library materials form available at the circulation desk and return it to the library director. And I have seen that does exist. The library director will report this information to the library board of trustees. The board will determine if the librarian abused their, should be his or her, discretion in the selection of the material. The role of the board of trustees is not to evaluate the content of the offending item. Under no circumstances will the personal view or taste of either the library director or members of the board be criteria in making the ruling. The determination will be made solely based on compliance with the selection guidelines of the collection development policy. The concerned individual will be notified of the board's decision in writing by the library director. Challenge materials will remain in the collection until the board's final decision. Okay. I don't think that this spells out how the Board of Trustees is to evaluate the content of the offending item. I think we need more specificity to guide the board in what they can determine and what they cannot determine and what they can examine and not examine. Right now, the only thing it says, well, you're not going to use personal taste, but you're going to rule on it, and there's really no guidelines for the board in making its determination. And that concerns me. I think we should include how the board can review it. Because right now they could basically just completely undermine the library director's selection. And I don't think that is our goal and function as the Board of Trustees. I think we're like sort of the ultimate appellate authority, but the discretion should be completely with the library director. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do. I agree with what you've said, and I'm wondering aloud if the specificity, if the damn specifics of that are included in our acceptance of the Connecticut Library Association's bylaws. I wonder if they've already set that out, Pat.
You know, I actually don't know, Peter. That is something we really should check.
Probably that's something Gail would know off the top of her head. All I'm saying is if they've got it and we've adopted it, and we have adopted it, it would be taken care of. And if not, we could do that pretty easily.
Yeah, okay. So basically, we should see if they have adopted the Connecticut standards. And unfortunately, we're going to have to ask Gail what those standards are. And because right now, the only guidance we have here is the selection guidelines of the collection development policy. And that's sort of, I mean, this goes around their circle. So I think that's an excellent idea, Peter, because anything we can borrow, steal, or reuse would be very, very, very useful, because anything that's out there has been tested, we hope. Okay.
Right.
Is there any other comments or thoughts? Oh, I had one other thought. I think the librarian, when he discusses it, and then after the librarian gets the form, I think the librarian should make the initial ruling on the form before it comes to the Board of Trustees. So we have something to review.
Do you mean the director? Or,
yeah.
Okay, okay.
The director would basically have a response to the form.
Yeah.
And then we could, that would give us something to review. Otherwise, again, we're just going to be reviewing his discretion.
Yeah.
And he may decide, or she may decide after reviewing it, that there's something else that needs to be considered, or re-examine whatever the material is. So I would like that evaluation to be done first by the library director. So there would be an extra step in there. Any thoughts?
I think that it does do that. It's just not perfectly clear. In the second paragraph, it does talk about the director's response to their initial request. And then if the patron is not satisfied with
then
the
he fills
director's
out the
response,
form.
then they do the form. Yeah.
And then I think the library director should also make a comment about the form before it comes to us. Because the first part is an informal discussion. and the concerned party could then write out their, in more detail, what their concerns are, and we would have something in writing to consider. And the librarian, again, may change his or her mind. So I would like to have the library director's comments on the form, an opinion on the form before it comes to the board.
Maybe the form should be like a multi-phase form, in that if somebody wants to file a concern, they fill out a form.
Okay,
And the director responds to that with, and then it goes back to the patron. And then if they aren't satisfied, they take it to the next.
so you would have like a concern form that the librarian would respond to, and then sort of like an appeal form of the librarian's decision going to the trustees.
Because that first interaction should be somehow documented.
Yeah,
It shouldn't
formalized.
just be
Absolutely.
an informal conversation, because
Yeah.
then there's really no record of it.
Yeah, he said, she said.
Mhm.
Okay, I like that idea. So, and also the fact is that requires the person who's complaining to fill out 2 forms, which sometimes slows people down quite, considerably. So.
Yeah, we'll see how serious this individual really is.
Exactly. And then we have all the information in front of us. And, we have what's in here is called an abuse of discretion standard, but we don't define what discretion is being abused. Is it the fact that the librarian did not follow the guidelines, or just made a feeling on his gut? What if discretion was exercised? Were there any things that the librarian had to make a decision on that was on the edge, or not bright line? I would like to see that if I'm going to be reviewing it. Okay, back to the drawing board. If anyone has any suggested language, that would be great. Otherwise, if it's okay, I'll take a shot at putting something in there and get it over to everyone for the next meeting in the package. And anyone else who would like to take a stab at it, please do. Any suggested language or forms or anything else that would make you feel comfortable in making the determination. And, our decision will be the final decision. That's it. No place else to go. So we have to have a written decision also, and maybe even have our own little checklist or form in which we make the decision. So if it goes any further, it's going to go into a court of law, is my feeling. So we want to make sure we have evidence of how we made our decision also. Okay? Whoopee. Okay. Any more thoughts on the challenge materials policy? Okay. All right. We had a request for a reconsideration of the meeting room policy. This is under new business. And so what is attached is the existing current meeting use policy. And then after that, there is something I stole from other libraries that had some interesting ideas. Now, that's not a rewrite of the original policy. This is just something for us to use for ideas.
Okay.
Okay. And so basically I stole all this from different libraries in different places and try to smush it all together, and just some other things we might want to consider in the policy. Now, is there anything that anyone really wanted to bring up about our current meeting use policy in particular?
What was the request for what, since I don't have the packet, I'm just wondering what was mentioned, what someone's concern was,
I don't
why
think
we're coming up with it.
I don't think our agenda said, it just said,
MA, I just want to let you know, I did email that packet to you just now. So
Yeah.
you should be able to find it in your Fairpoint email if you are near a computer.
Yeah.
Just-
Okay,
And-
thank you.
and when it was added to the agenda, it was just added as meeting room use policy with no indication what the person wanted to have reviewed. They just want it reviewed.
Pat, this is Sue. I requested that this be put
Okay.
on.
Good.
Because there's been a couple issues this year that I think could, open us wide up. Earlier this year, when Code had the author in,
Who had the author in? I'm sorry.
the Code group in town, they had an
Code group.
author come in and speak, and they had I guess a luncheon also was included. And I noticed in the publicity that there was a fee, a registration fee, and I knew our policy, anything held in the community room, there could be no charge. So I did question that, and we're talking to Kevin, and he said he wasn't aware at the time that they were going to be doing that, but we felt, well, maybe it's just to cover the cost of the lunch. So, we let that drop. And then at the end of June, when there was, and I don't know the name of the group, but they had the walk from the gazebo to the library, and it was
The
for
small
the
town
pride.
pride. Yeah.
Yes. Originally, they were going to meet at the library for the crafts, etc., that they have been doing right along. And then by the end of the month, the publicity on Facebook and then in the River East was offering like vendors participating, which is a no-no. And so I was talking to Kevin, and he didn't realize when the room was scheduled, there really was no mention of that. And he said everybody has to initial that they've read the policy at the time they reserve the room. And also it was publicized that the library was collaborating with them.
Oh, no.
And that's right in our policy. And I mean, this could just open us up, to anything.
We don't endorse anything.
No. Well, my feeling was that maybe we need to, anybody that reserves it, maybe they need to be handed a copy of what is allowed and not allowed.
Oh,
and
yes.
maybe there should be a form that people fill out in detail as to what they're going to be using the room for, what the actual activities are going to be. Because apparently they're just, reserving the space, and then they just sometimes keep adding and adding and adding to what they've initially said that they want the room for.
Yeah. I mean,
another thing Kevin had pointed out, and I didn't think about, was if people do not follow the policy, there's no way for us to tell them they can't, cancel, they have to cancel their event, or in the future, there's no way for us to deny them use of the room.
Okay, so cancel the event and deny, both of which are excellent suggestions.
Yeah.
Did you, you think it'd be worth our while to have any advertising material given to us so we know what they're saying?
Well, I'm not sure that at the time they reserve the space, they really have any publicity.
No, I mean, when they start doing it, that we get
Oh.
calls.
Oh, well, I mean, you could, otherwise it kind of it would fall on people, the staff at the library to check, Facebook and anything else.
Yep.
And that's really not part of their job.
Right.
Yeah.
Could we receive a copy of the room reservation application?
Yeah, I guess we could.
Is that
I'm just
available on the
thinking-
library website?
I don't know.
Here, I'll go, I'll just go look right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Sue, I think we,
I know it's on the front desk there, but I don't know. Maybe that we need a rewrite of that also.
Yeah,
Well,
at
that's
least,
what I'm suggesting after we look at it.
yeah.
Now, the other thing I also noticed that I thought Tuesdays and Thursdays were reserved to the town.
I
Is that
think
right?
that's more during budget season.
I thought that was general. I don't
No,
know.
it is supposed to be year round.
Oh,
That
okay,
Tuesday and Thursday are set aside for the town.
all right.
If the library has programming needs for those dates, they're supposed to contact us and see if we
Okay,
plan
see,
to use.
okay.
But the other thing is, I think if that registration form includes the rules or guidelines from the policy, it should include the rules and guidelines from the policy, the general rules and limitations, and that the applicant is signing that form, and then we should make sure they retain a copy of it. And we also require insurance. So
Yeah.
Right.
that should also be a check mark on
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
application
Yeah.
form.
And the application form should also have a place where they can fill in the information about the insurance carrier. And maybe even a policy number.
Yeah, maybe they can-
That's true.
yeah,
Mhm.
provide the policy number and the carrier. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, in case something happens, we have somebody to call.
Right.
Okay, that's a good. And the other thing I noticed, about raising funds, there is a line in here that says for-profit organizations will not be allowed to use the meeting rooms for any fundraising purpose.
Mhm.
Now, does that mean that nonprofits can use the room for fundraising purposes?
If you go further down under the general rules and limitations,
Mm-hmm.
it specifically says no products or services may be sold.
But can
So-
they solicit money?
They can
Is
solicit
Maple Fest a legal
donations.
ride?
Right.
Donations?
Yes,
Does Maple Fest override this policy?
yes.
Oh, the Maple Fest, and the thing I wrote up, the Maple Fest or any other town department is an exception to the policy.
Mhm.
They can fundraise. They can sell little cheap Hebron tchotchkes, or t-shirts or whatever, and so I think any department of the town should be able to, even the fire department should be able to use it for whatever purposes, selling cookies or whatever. And when we have the Hebron days, the little festivals, people come into the library. So, wouldn't it be nice if that group, the town group, could also make a little money there? Even charge them to go to the bathroom or something, I don't know. But, because that's what everybody uses it for. So when I added that to our policy thing too, I think we need to rewrite this, guys, to be honest with you. And clarify what meeting rooms are for. The other thing is that if they're using the meeting room, anybody can go. they can't limit the attendance to their own group. I mean, it's all members of the public are welcome to go in there because it's an open public space, is my understanding.
But that wouldn't be my understanding if that space had been reserved.
And I'm afraid that I don't know if we can exclude people from a public space that the Hebron town government has.
Yeah.
So that's something for you to check into, Donna, I would imagine.
Now, this goes to the library desk. Does it also go to Parks and Rec, who control every other town-owned building and request for use?
I don't know what their policies are, so we need to find out.
Those are more for the outside spaces.
Oh,
This policy is strictly for the inside space.
so we need to find out if we can, suppose I walk in there and say, oh, I want to just go and sit down. This is a public room. We need to address that and what our requirements are.
I just checked on the library website and the link to the application is there. You just, it's not like super obvious, but it's under the library policies, like all of this stuff. So you just have to scroll down far enough to where it has the meeting room policies. And then it has a link it has all the rules, and then it has a link to the written application, where it says it has to be submitted at least 30 days prior to the requested meeting date. It does say must be submitted to the director or authorized agent for each use of the meeting room. So that could be something, it could be submitted to the Board of Trustees also, obviously the director, but I feel like the Board of Trustees, president or something could be an authorized agent as well.
Am I
if you wanted. I'm not trying to make more work for you.
Okay. Yeah, I think we should readdress this with the concerns that have been raised and be very clear of what can and cannot be done. And what if, we had that thing, small town pride. What if demonstrators had showed up and disrupted the meeting? We don't have anything that says we can throw their butts out.
Right.
So we should not allow harassment and disruption of meetings. And here's the thing I was thinking, what if they were out there picketing in the parking lot? Do we have the right to tell people to leave our parking lot?
No, we can call the police. That's the best way.
Yeah, call the police. Okay. Okay. All right. Now, how far in advance do you have to reserve the room? Is it 2 weeks?
30 days.
30 days.
You have to submit the application, has to be submitted at least 30 days prior to the requested meeting date.
Okay. And the other thing is, go ahead.
What about for the little study rooms? I mean, those are not requested and don't have to be with a 30-day lead.
No, this is just for the meeting room.
Well, right now,
Just for the community
she's
room.
right. The meeting room policy does include the study rooms, the way it's written now. You're right.
And the conference room too, which holds quite a few people.
Yeah,
it says, so it says that there's 2 meeting rooms and then 3 study rooms. Oh no, you're right. It does say herein after referred to as meeting rooms. So technically the study rooms also. Yeah. So we might want to separate that because that seems 30 days seems a lot for the study rooms.
Yeah, I think that should be immediate.
And if they're not reserved and someone checks up at the desk and asks them and no one's using it, then the people upstairs just say, yeah, go ahead.
So
right, because don't people sometimes reserve the study rooms for like tutoring and stuff like that?
Yes.
And I think I've tutored before at the library, sometimes it's like, you only schedule dates maybe like a week in advance. So yeah.
Okay, that's something we gotta separate out and think about how they're treated differently.
Right.
You know, and if they're being disruptive, we want to kick them out too. The other thing is, I was thinking about the community room and the meeting rooms. What if somebody's doing something in there that disturbs our patrons? Like playing loud music or dancing on the table or something. You know, we should also control the fact that they can't disturb other people in the library.
Right.
So this is getting too complicated. Okay.
Well, while we're looking at that, we do know that when RAM students have early dismissals, they go various places, one of which is the library, the teen area, various spots. And when they're in the community room, there's no one with them and they have a good time.
Oh, you can hear them
I
out.
have spoken to them. I mean, I've spoken to them. I can no longer discipline because of my age. I mean, they just look at me and say, what the heck? But I can do it with humor. One day I stopped them and said, hey, do you guys think it would be nice if we bought a wrestling mat for your use down here? You know, smart comment like that. And it stopped them. But that should also be addressed.
So people just walking in and using the room without reserving it or without permission. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm talking about students.
We don't want to say students, you know, because we can't discriminate against them. But you know, if anybody goes in there,
I'm throwing it out there as a further concern that perhaps we should look into.
Okay.
So, and maybe we need more coverage, as has been stated, for early dismissal days, so that we do have staff throughout the library. It's a different topic, sort of.
Well, yeah, I'm concerned that we have people going in there and just using the community room willy-nilly, and we have no control over who's in there and what they're doing. I know there's one camera.
We do have the camera that goes to, I don't know, 9. I don't know how many there are. 9 or a dozen locations.
Yeah, but there's only one in that room. So that I saw. And it doesn't take in the entire room. So, okay. All right. And here's another thing. I'm also not clear on who can use the meeting room or the community room. It's not, you know, they're available to the Hebron community in its broadest sense and reflect the educational, cultural, and social role the library plays. Now, does that include condo boards? You know, private condo board meetings?
It just, so it says no commercial or private use of the meeting rooms is permitted. So it says nonprofit organizations headquartered in Hebron or serving the Hebron community may apply for use of the meeting rooms for educational, civic, and or cultural programs intended for and open to the public. So if a private condo board wanted to meet there in the meeting room, it doesn't seem, based on how it's written, they wouldn't be able to do that.
But they have,
because that would, right. So according to what's on the website, they shouldn't be able to, because that's a commercial or private use of the meeting room.
So we got to reconsider that too. You know, and I mean, if the Girl Scouts or the Boy Scouts meet there, they're a private organization also.
No, they're nonprofit.
They're nonprofit?
Yeah, Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts are nonprofit.
Okay. So basically we've been, and maybe churches.
Yeah, churches are probably considered nonprofit also.
And charities.
Yep.
I mean, I think maybe we want to have it broader than that. You know, what if we want to have an author come in and do a talk?
Well, that's considered an educational.
Sponsoring it.
Yeah, but they may not be a nonprofit.
No. But I mean, it's.
But that's library programming. That
right.
would be our own.
It may not be. I mean, I think we should think about very carefully who can use the
No, but
meeting
that could
room.
be
But then it
sponsored.
may
A
come
nonprofit.
under commercial.
Well, no, because if we're having an author come in, that's hosted by the library.
Not necessarily.
No, it could
Suppose
be
the
by a
Episcopal Church came
nonprofit.
over and said, you know, or some other group came in, you know, a book reading club came in and say, we want to have this author come here, who's not organized as a nonprofit because they don't do anything and they don't get charitable contributions. I think we need to think very carefully about who uses the community room. And do we want it sitting there not used, or do we want to make it have maximum use? You see what I'm saying?
Right.
If we limit it too much, then it's going to be empty a lot. And do we want to have it used more so that it draws more patrons into the library? So, I mean, we got a lot of work to do, guys. Okay. So what should I do now, Donna? Should I just have us go back on the agenda again?
I would keep it on the agenda.
Okay. And we don't have an executive director to redraft it for us. So we're back in that situation again. So anybody has any thoughts or ideas about any of the things that we talked about, and even the things we didn't talk about, because we didn't think of them, then I think we should put those together. And if we don't have something drafted before the new executive director comes in, at least have all our ideas ready for the director to do drafting.
Right.
I have
Well,
a
you have a thought.
suggestion.
Sure. Anything.
The thoughts can
So-
go before us at the next meeting.
One other thing, that this was an item that came up quite a lot during the strategic plan, was to make our meeting room spaces and the building used more by the community. We want to make sure that the building is used as much as it possibly can be.
Okay.
So maybe this rewrite of that policy can fall under one of the strategic plan committees that it would be it would fit closest to. And I'm
Oh, dear.
not sure, it might be welcoming. I'm not sure where, you know, without looking at the detail of the strategic plan, where that fits, but maybe that would be an assignment for that committee.
Well, I think integral, because integral connects to the community also.
It may fall under a couple of them, but I think
Right.
in the strategic plan, I'm pretty sure we talked about the meeting room space. So
Yeah, see,
But-
I'm concerned that without the executive director who basically oversees these committees, that it's just going to fall by the wayside for the time being.
I don't think anything really can be done until we
Yeah.
have the new person on board.
But we can
I
think.
agree. But I
And-
think it's important if we kind of put together an idea of what the
What we'd like
changes
to
we'd like
see.
to see. Yeah. So then when we do get the new person, we can be like, hey,
Look
here's
what
our
we
list of
have.
right. Like, here's our list of stuff we've been working over the past several months. Yeah.
Well,
One of
I
the
think
things-
this is
so
an
in-
opportunity.
Huh?
This is an opportunity for us to get
Yeah.
more involved and do more of the nitty gritty. I mean, Kevin's been doing everything just about, and probably we should have been sharing more of it all along.
I agree. You know,
Pat, I
because,
think we
mean,
start a
you know,
parking
it
lot
was,
list.
you know,
just keep
the
putting
shock
stuff
of
in.
him leaving and me sitting there saying, what the hell are we going to do at the next meeting without having the agenda and the package? It indicated that we should be more involved in the process. Donna, is there any policy in any other department about the use of public, like meeting rooms and stuff that we could steal? Borrow?
Hmm.
Donna, can you think of anything? Senior center, maybe?
I think the senior center has a policy. I don't know it off the top of my head. I could check with Sharon.
Would
I
you?
mean, a lot of thought did go into the existing policy. I think we have a good base to work from. I think just, it
Mhm.
probably just needs to be tweaked a bit to, with the changing times and the changing needs of the community. And I think if we take a look at what we put together in the strategic plan, I don't think we need a complete rewrite. I think we can use what we have and improve on it.
Well, there are some good ideas in here. Absolutely. Yeah. The board subscribes to Article 4 of the Library Bill of Rights. And then it has an ellipsis that facilities should be made available. There must be more to it than that one little blurb there, right? Maybe there's more in the Library Bill of Rights too. This is something to talk to Gail about. So she probably has examples. Okay. I think that, I would like to see people putting together their ideas and thoughts. And I think one of the first things we have to decide is who gets to use the darn thing and for what.
Right. So I just looked in the in our handy dandy little strategic plan here, and I do think it would fit under integral the best because point number 6 under integral is increase room usage by outside organizations by amending the room use policy to reduce barriers of entry, expanding hours of availability, and increasing advertising for the service. So I think everything we just talked about is actually fulfilling the integral, one of our goals anyway. So I think it's fair. And I mean, we know that this is a plan through 2027 anyway. So obviously the sooner we can make changes, the better, but I don't think it's horrible if we start putting ideas together now, but obviously wait until we get the new director in order to go through this stuff. We'll still be meeting the goals of the strategic plan for the next 4 years.
Who's on integral committee?
I am.
Oh, congratulations.
I am.
Okay, well now we got.
It would be great. So actually, so it was me, MA, and Kevin. So I feel like it would be, again, it'll be easier once we have the new director because that person would be part of it as well, ideally.
Yeah, but you definitely have ideas.
Right.
But I also think the new director will be very happy to have this strategic policy in place that she can also utilize.
Right.
Okay. I think then your next meeting should be devoted to that. And should we send any ideas we have to your committee?
Sure.
Good idea. Yes.
Yeah. So anyone else on the board that has any thoughts? We could share them with the integral committee. Make your job easier too. Okay, I think we killed that sucker. Unless we have any more things to talk about under meeting room policy. All right, strategic plan committees. Again, Kevin's not here. Is there anyone from any of the committees that wants to report any progress or any work that they're doing or any problems they're having? Okay, if there's no reports from the committees, now how do I do this, Donna, to go into adjourn the public meeting?
So we would need a motion to move into executive session for the purposes of, then we have to state what the purpose of executive session is, who is invited in, and then we would stop the recording, move into executive session.
Can we say something like staff issues? Is that too broad?
Do we have anyone online? Do we have anyone online tonight who's not a part of?
Well, they're going to be asked to leave the meeting now, and it would be Courtney and Catherine.
Yeah.
Oh, so we do have some. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. MA, just so you know, the people that are here are Peter Casarella, Susan Porter, Meg Clifton, Emily Sear, and yourself from the board. And then Catherine Brinkman, the board clerk, and Courtney Hayes is a guest.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
You're welcome.
So you would want a motion to go into executive session to discuss staffing? Would that be a good motion?
Do you want to be more specific? Is it staffing?
I
or
don't
is it-
want to be too specific.
Peter?
Yes. How about something to the effect of progress on a search for a new library director?
But that is public
I
business.
think that's public business, and I think the discussion was more around the interim coverage.
Yeah, we're talking about personnel issues.
Yeah, but we're talking about personnel issues because we're trying to fill the new director spot. And how are we gonna backfill it before we get somebody in there? That's my point. And
Okay, so we're talking about, again, we're talking about interim staffing.
and associated items and items associated with staffing.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that, Peter.
I said, we're talking about interim staffing, maybe internal, maybe external.
Uh-huh.
We're probably going to at least broach the topic of compensation. And I think we're going to broach the topic of responsibility. All these policies we're talking about.
Okay, again, we're getting into, some of these items are public considerations. Like what the job description is and responsibilities, and what he's paid is a town issue. We got to have a reason for it to be a private session and not public. And normally when you do that, you're doing it because you don't want to reveal personnel choices or things that are subject to privacy. Or conferring with your attorney, or
Well,
things that
I-
have to be private by law.
I think that it's inevitable if we go into this session that people's names will be mentioned and their salaries will be mentioned.
Okay,
And I do not believe that that should be public information.
okay, there we go. So that is what we're meeting for in executive session.
All right, so I'll make that motion, Pat.
Okay, okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all those,
My point, I do have a question.
sure.
When Peter just mentioned salaries, that also is public information, I believe.
Not when you're negotiating.
Yeah, he's talking about negotiating in a contract, which we can do in private. We can't set the salaries because that's set by the town.
Yeah, we can't do that anyway.
Right, but we can discuss, personnel and what they're getting and what we feel they should be getting, perhaps even based on performance. So, that would be something we would discuss in executive session. Okay, is there any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention. Okay, and then we have voted to go into executive session. That would mean that members of the public, that would be for Courtney. Goodbye, Courtney.
Bye, thank you.
And
Thanks for
you.
coming, Courtney.
Bye,
Thank-
Kat. See what you're missing? Okay, and Catherine, I think, is gone.
Yeah, she just left.
Do we come back on?
Hey,
Do
and
we go
need-
out of executive session and return to our public meeting?
Yes.
Yes,
Right.
for about
so
the 10
Catherine-
seconds that were there, yes, they could.
So Catherine has to remain
No,
somewhere in the
so
wings.
I will record the time we're going into executive session and the time we come out of executive session and the time we adjourn the meeting and send that to Catherine.
Okay, so we
Okay.
do have.
And so
outreach.
we need to just state that we're moving into executive session. The motion was made at 8:21.
Okay, All right, so are we all set now? in
No,
terms-
hang on. I need to stop the recording.
Okay,
And I gotta figure out how to do that. This is, this is my first Zoom meeting that I've run, so.